Okay, so good morning once again, everyone. Okay, so today we will be having a new topic to discuss. No, continuation pa rin siya sa intermediate accounting natin. So for today, we will be discussing all about um, the basics of share valuation. Okay, specifically book value and earnings per share. Okay, now brief background lang. Okay. If you want to know, well, as shareholders, obviously, if we are a particular shareholders of a certain corporation, um, we want to know how is our shares of stocks, no? Or how is our investment so that particular shares of stocks are holding on, no? Ano na kaya, no? Basically, um, yung investment pa natin, kaya pa bang ibalik ng corporation? Or in terms of profitability, may income pa kaya yung um, investment natin for a particular corporation? Di ba? Yan yung mga basic na mga tanong na sometimes ginagawa natin when we have when we have a particular investment to a certain corporation, no? Aside from the basic financial statements, okay, aside from the basic financial statements where we look generally on the present condition and operation of a certain corporation, we also have other information needed to look into deeply, okay, to look into deeply as to what is currently happening to our investment, no? To answer that, okay, to answer that, the book value per share and earnings per share is a very good tool, no? Is a very good tool. Okay? Also, regulatory wise, a corporation is also required, okay, to report this book value per share and earnings per share, okay, included in the financial statements, okay, so that although shareholders may not require it, but as we have discussed or as we have stated earlier, this is a very vital information. Okay, this is a very these are vital information as to knowing, okay, as to knowing the present condition of the shares of stocks. Okay? So, that is the purpose on why we need to know, or those are just some of the purpose on why we need to know book value and earnings per share. Okay? So, what is book value per share? Number one. Okay? Book value per share, okay, is basically, okay, the amount, okay, take note of this, the amount that a share of stock, okay, that a share of stock can get, okay, can get from the asset of a corporation. Okay? It is the amount that a share of stock can get from the asset of a corporation after, okay, after deducting liabilities. Okay? After deducting liabilities. So if we are to look at this simply, okay? If we are to look at this simply, it is just a manifestation, di ba? Okay, it is just a manifestation of our, basic accounting equation, which is, di ba, asset is equals to liabilities plus equity. Di ba? If we are to represent this definition on what is a book value per share, then it basically means your equity. Correct? It basically means your equity. That is, asset minus liability equals your equity. Yeah? Ano yung equity na mapupunta sa isang shares of stocks? No? As we all know, 'di ba, based on our previous discussions of intermediate accounting, when we talk about equity, equity is composed of many transactions or many accounts, 'di ba? So basically, what do we meant by this is that in terms of a corporation, no, aside from the par value, okay, aside from the par value, magkano pa ba ang mapupunta sa isang shares of stocks? That includes magkano when it comes to retained earnings, to share premium, to um, to to revaluation surplus, no? Magkano doon sa mga amount na yun ang mapupunta for one share? Okay? Meaning, um, specific valuation for each share of stocks. Na, ibig sabihin yan, when it comes to liquidation, kung ano yung madidetermine natin na book value per share, yun talaga yung mapupunta sa isang shareholder. Aside, okay? Aside from the par value. Okay? That is why, no? Formula-wise, if we are to compute for book value per share is simply computed as equity divided by shares outstanding. Okay? And that, yung equity na sinasabi natin dito is composed of your par value and other equity items like the share premium, yun nga sabi natin kanina, or revaluation surplus or retained earnings. Okay? That is simply what is book value per share. Okay? Now, we have stated na automatic par value. Okay? Par value, mapupunta talaga yan siya for one share of stocks. Okay? Automatic yan siya. Ngayon, okay lang sana if we have one class of stocks, di ba? Because if you can remember, in general, there are two classes of stocks. We have the preference share and we have the ordinary share. Di ba? We have the ordinary share and the preference share. No? Yun nga, okay lang sana if we have one class of stock. Because automatic na sana yan siya na if we are to be asked how much is the book value, automatic na. Stockholders equity divided by ordinary shares outstanding. Yun na yun siya. Complication may arise. in the computation of book value per share if we have two classes of stocks. Because by then, we have now to allocate, okay? Excuse. We are now to allocate items, okay? Items found in the stockholders' equity except for the par value. Because par value is automatic. What do we meant by these other items is yung kung ano yung retained earnings natin, kung ano yung share premium, okay? We have to allocate that. We have to allocate that kung ilang portion ang mapupunta sa ordinary share, ilang portion ang mapupunta sa preferring share, so that we can get the total stockholders equity pertaining to your ordinary share and your total stockholders equity pertaining to your preference share. And with that, if we divide those figure to your shares outstanding, you can now have, or we can now have, our book value per share specific to each class. Okay? Specific to each class. Now, the point lang naman dito is that we should know how to allocate those items. Okay? We should know how to allocate those items. And number two, we should know how to compute for our shares outstanding. Okay? We should know how to allocate and we should know how to compute for shares outstanding. Okay? Now, for the purpose of book value computation, number one, shares outstanding is basically computed as issued share capital, okay? Kumbaga, yung tinatawag natin na issued share capital is yung fully paid and issued. Fully paid, kaya na-issue na yung share capital. Plus, subscribe. Yeah, if you can remember your stockholders equity, subscribe share capital. Okay? Less treasury shares. No? If you can remember your treasury shares are those shares of stocks previously issued but subsequently reacquired by the corporation. So, simple lang. Yan, that is how we compute, okay? That is how we compute our shares outstanding. Okay? Now, if you may notice, okay, for the purpose of computing book value per share, okay, for the purpose of computing book value per share, subscription, remember this, subscription receivable is ignored. Kasi, theoretically, if we are to compute for the subscribed capital stock, subscription receivable is deducted. Okay? Is deducted. But for the purpose of computing your outstanding shares, it is ignored. Why? Because again, we have to look at the full picture of our book value per share. That is why kahit hindi pa siya fully paid, okay? Kahit hindi pa siya fully paid, it is as if it is issued. Okay? It is as if it is issued to have a conservative computation for our book value. That is why it is ignored. Okay? It is ignored. So remember that, ha? Now, again, that is the first issue. How we should compute for our shares outstanding. Now, as to how we should allocate the other items found in the stockholders' equity, we have to know, okay, we have to know what is the nature of our preference share. Okay? We have to know what is the nature of our preference share. Um, when it comes to preference share class, okay, when it comes to preference share, we all know that a preference share basically, or in general, ang nature ng preference share is that in substance, there is no ownership interest. Tama? Di ba? Walang ownership interest pagdating sa preference share. Because basically, so, yun, di ba? It does not represent ownership. But what is basically ang purpose of a preference share is for the preference as to dividends. That is in general, di ba? In substance, no? Ngayon, um, when it comes to preference share, no? When it comes to preference share, a preference share can be, it is a preference as to assets. And it can be a preference as to dividends. Okay? Ha? It can be preference as to assets or preference as to dividends. Now, when we say that a preference share is preferred as to assets, okay? It literally means na we have to pay, or the assets of a corporation, okay? The assets of a corporation is being, kumbaga, dapat unang gamitan ng asset ng corporation after the liabilities has been paid are the dividends owed to the preference stocks or the preference share. Okay? Kuha ninyo yun? Kumbaga, in terms of, in case we have to liquidate, okay, in terms of we have to liquidate, or maybe not liquidation, but if we are to pay certain dividends, kumbaga, yung asset ng corporation, yung dapat paggamitan muna dyan, okay, yung dapat paggamitan muna dyan, are the dividends owed to the preference shares. Okay? Kaya tinatawag siya na preference as to asset. That is why, no? If you may, if I hope that you have already read your material or the book, um, the nature of a preference as to asset preferred shares is that if there are dividends in arrears, as long as it is stated and declared, it should be paid. Because yun nga, yung asset natin, after extracting or after paying your liability, okay, after paying your liability, dapat bayaran muna yung dividends ng preference share or dapat bayaran muna yung mga preference shares. Okay? Automatic. Okay? Walang distinction. So that is preference as to asset. So when it comes to computation of book value per share, if the particular preferred stock or the preference share is considered preferred as to asset, automatic yung other items, okay? Yung stockholders equity accounts aside from the par should be deducted by the dividends, okay? By the total dividends, which means the current or and in arrears if there are any. The rest papunta na sa ordinary shareholders. Okay? So um, that is preferences to asset. Now later on we will have examples illustrating that particular transaction. No? Preference as to dividends. Okay? Preference as to dividends. Ito siya kung baga preferred only to dividends. Okay? Preferred only to dividends. But depende on what is the specific nature of the type of preference share. No? Actually, yung main kaibahan talaga dito sa dalawa because if we are to look at it in hindsight lang, parang wala namang pagkakaiba kasi yun nga, these two distinction, okay, these particular distinctions only applies to dividends. So, ano pagkakaiba nila, sir? Ganito. Pag preference as to dividends lang siya, class, yun nga, aside from depende kung ano yung specific nature talaga, like kung participating, cumulative, and so on. Okay? Dito, if sa preference as to asset, let's say, we have a negative retained earnings. Kahit negative retained earnings siya, we are to pay for the dividends pag preference as to asset. Kasi nga, although let's say negative yung retained earnings natin or negative income, okay, negative income, yung basis kasi, as long as we have assets in excess of the liability. Okay? And if mag-continue yung loss, yung pagka-negative niyan, the ordinary shareholders will borne that loss. Okay? Will borne that loss. But, if preference as to dividends lang siya, regardless if cumulative, participating, and so on, pag negative siya, no dividends can be paid. Kuha niyo yung difference, no? No dividends can be paid. Because yun nga, the stock or the preference share is only preferred as to dividends. Now, we have to remember na if there is a negative retained earnings or negative net income, kumbaga, we cannot declare retained earnings, di ba? How can we declare, no, sorry, not declare retained earnings, declare dividends, di ba? How can we declare dividends if we have no funds allocated to pay that particular dividends? Yeah, that is the general rule. Okay, that is a general rule. So, wala. See? Nakuha ninyo ang difference between the two. Okay? So now, continuing with our discussion. Okay? Um, Again, as stated kanina, pag preferences to dividends, a preference share can be cumulative or not cumulative. Okay? Pag sinabi natin cumulative, meaning, when it comes to allocation per computation of book value, okay, per book value computation, we are to give the preferring share its dividends in arrears. Okay, meaning the current and the previous, as long as it is stated and declared and or declared. Okay? But remember this, kahit cumulative pa yan siya, if there are no statements na there are dividends in arrears or there are no declarations for previous dividends, hindi natin yan siya aallocated. Okay? Remember that because that is very important. Okay? Pag not cumulative siya, okay, the opposite of cumulative, meaning, the current dividends lang yung i-allocate natin. Okay? Yung current dividends lang yung i-allocate. Okay? Pag not cumulative. Kuha ninyo yun. Okay? A preferring share can also be participating and not or non-participating. Meaning, pag sinabi natin na participating siya, aside from the dividends, okay, aside from the dividends na marireceive daw niya, in excess of the par, the preferring share can participate in the allocation also. So, kumbaga, parang pinakomplicate lang na dividend premium. Okay? Nakuha ninyo yun? But, in essence, iisipin natin talaga ito, parang additional payment to preference share participating na yung additional payment niya, kukunin niya sa allocation ng excess from the excess net of the dividends given to the preference share. Na yung sobra allocated between the preference share and the ordinary share. Okay? That is participating. Provided, okay, provided that the dividends that we are looking here is that the ordinary share can also have that particular, what you call this, that particular privilege given to the preferring share. Na ang ibig sabihin lang yan is that the ordinary share could also receive the same benefit with the ang preferring share. Na yung benefit na sinasabi natin, yung basis is kung ano yung rate, okay, dividend rate na marireceive ng uh, preference share. So, let's say, a preference share, we have, let's say, 5% preference share. Pag sinabi niyan, class, na 5%, that means 5% of the par value. Okay? Yan yun. So, pag sinabing 5%, the ordinary share could also receive 5% of the par value. Okay? Na kung may excess pa, i-allocate yun siya. Okay? Allocated siya pro rata. Okay? Allocated pro rata. Pro rata based on, again, par value. Okay? Par value. On the total par value. Ngayon, non-participating, obviously, yung walang ganun na setup. No? Standard characteristic. Na up to the dividends stated lang yung preference share. Na yung makukuha niya aside from the par is kung ano yung preference rate. Okay? So, in addition, class, no? In addition, pag sinabi nating participating, okay? Pag sinabi nating participating, it can be fully participating and partial participating. Okay? It can be fully participating and partial participating. Meaning, okay, pag partial participating siya, okay, pag partial participating, wala yung allocation pro rata. Because yung allocation pro rata is only applicable if fully participating. Ang ibig sabihin lang pag partial participating is that yung marireceive, okay, yung marireceive ng preference share in excess of the dividends allocated is up to the participation rate. Okay? Is up to the participation rate lang. Kuha ninyo. So, let's say, 16% participation. Diba? So, hindi siya pro rata. Na yung basis ng allocation natin is kung ano yung participation rate. So, that is partial and full. Okay. So, that is basics of book value per share. No, that is the basics of book value per share. So we have to try some examples. No? Actually, this was given to you as an assignment. No? So let's try to discuss your assignment. So we have this first problem. Diba? So we have this first problem with ito. So, Evergreen Company provided the following shareholders equity at year-end. So we have share capital, share premium, retained earnings, appropriated, and revaluation surplus. Now, ito yung sinabi natin kanina na if this is the case where there is only one class of stocks, okay? Where there is only one class of stocks, medyo madali lang. Kasi all we need to do is total stockholders equity divided by your shares outstanding. Di ba? So in this particular example, our total stockholders equity here, obviously that is 8,800,000. Di ba? And our shares outstanding, yun nga, medyo madali lang din, walang ibang transaction. Our total shares outstanding, that is basically, wait. The 5 million total par divided by the par value. Yeah? So 5 million divided by 100. So we have 50,000 shares outstanding. So total SHE or total stockholders equity divided by 50,000, we have 176 book value per share. Okay? Very basic. No? Medyo madali lang. So again, pag there is only one class of stocks, no? Next example tayo. This is preference as to dividends na. Or medyo nagiging komplikado siya because there are two class of stocks. No? So, isa-isahin natin ito. Okay? So, the best way to compute this is basically for us to make a table, no, para madali siyang intindihin when it comes to when we compute this. Okay, when we compute this. So, Endless Company provided the following shareholders equity on December 31, 2020. Di ba? So, our preference share, it has a total par value of 1 million. Again, class, yung individual or specific par value, automatic na yun siya mapupunta sa each type of class, no? Basic yun siya, baka malito pa kayo niya, no? Automatic yan siya because it basically, sa kanya talaga yun siya, di ba? Par value nga niya. So, that is generally automatic mapupunta kung anong type of class. Ha? And for our ordinary share, we have 4 million. Now, yung excess, di ba, yung dapat i-allocate natin to get what is the particular stockholders equity pertaining to your preference share and what is the total stockholders equity pertaining to your ordinary share. Which in this case, yung other items natin or yung tinatawag nga as the excess of the par, we have 3 million. Okay, we have 3 million. Ngayon, first situation, what if the stocks, the preference share is cumulative and fully participating? Okay? Fully participating. So ngayon, pag fully participating siya, tapos cumulative pa, meaning, yung dividends na marireceive ng preference share would include the dividends in arrears. Which in this particular case, as stated, okay, as stated, December 31, 2018 yung last payment. Diba? December 31, 2018. Ito. And we are now on December 31, 2020. Diba? So the point is, there are 2019 and 2020, 2 years in arrears. So the dividends class stated 12% daw. So the dividends is, if we have a par value of 100 times 12%, 12% siya, the dividends is 12 pesos per share multiplied by the number of shares. Okay? Na ang number of shares natin, if we have a 1 million total par value, wait, if we have a 1 million total par value, the total number of shares, we have 10,000. Okay? So 12 per share times 10,000, total number of shares. We have 120,000 dividends per year. Diba? For the preferring share. And that, kasi cumulative siya, that is for 2 years. So we have 240,000. Kuha. So ito, babawasan na natin yan siya ng preferred dividends na 240,000, which mapupunta na sa automatic preferred shares. As stated, pag participating, it goes din na dapat magkakaroon din yung you call this ordinary shares. So, 12% of the par pa rin. Diba? Now, kanina, pinakita ko kung paano yan siya computein the long way. If we are to, actually, yung mas madali lang talaga dyan na computation is to multiply the total par value by the rate. 4 million is the total par value. Diba? Times 12%. So the dividend or the share of the ordinary share, we have 480,000. The participation. Okay? The equivalent privilege. Okay? Ngayon, ang excess nito, we need to allocate, ito yung sinasabi natin kanina, allocate pro rata. Diba? So the excess, we have 3 million minus 240 minus 480, we have 2,280,000. So magkano dyan? Yung mapupunta sa preferred share, magkano yung mapupunta sa ordinary share. So, simple lang. Allocate pro rata daw. So, 2,280,000 times 1 divided by 5 times 4 divided by 5. This is preferring share, ordinary share. Now, saan natin kinuha itong 1 and 4 over 5? Dito. Okay? Sa total par value. If we are to total that, that is 5 million, di ba? So, 1 over 5. 4 over 5. Di ba? Or, sige, gusto niyo nung mas mahaba pa, di, times 1 million over 5 million. Or times 4 million over 5 million. Diba? That is pro rata. Okay? So, yun. So, 2,280,000 times 1 over 5, or simply, we have 456. 2,280,000 times 4 divided by 5, we have 1,824. Diba? So, obviously, pag i-total mo yan siya, that is equal to that. Okay? That is equal to 2,280,000. Ngayon, yung total stockholders equity pertaining to your preference share, we have 1 million, the par, the dividends, including the in arrears, and the participation. So we have 1,696 or 1,696. For your ordinary share, we have 4 million plus 480 plus 1,824. So we have 6,304. Okay? Divide this to your ordinary share outstanding of, di ba, 10,000 tayo for our preferred shares, and that 40,000 yung ordinary shares outstanding natin for ordinary shares outstanding, di ba? So, 1,696 divided by 10, the book value per share of your preference share, we have 169.6. And the book value per share of your ordinary share, we have 6,304 divided by 40, 157.6. So that is cumulative and fully participating. Okay? Ngayon, second situation. What if cumulative siya and fully participating after ordinary share receives 12-15%? So ngayon, yung privilege ngayon ng ordinary share, as specifically stated, is not up to the preference rate lang na 12%. But, yung privilege rate niya, 15% daw. Diba? Yan yung sabi. Okay? So, again, yung applicability na gamitin yung preference rate if it is silent. But, if tulad nito, given siya, then, we have to use what is the privilege rate of the ordinary share. Okay? So, simple lang. Same procedure tayo up to sa preference dividend. But, pagdating natin sa ordinary share privilege, yung gagamitin natin dyan is 4 million multiplied by 15 or 15%. So that is 600,000. Okay? Na yung magiging impact niyan is that the net excess ngayon would be 3 million minus 240 minus 600,000. So that is 2,160,000. Okay? And that, if we are to allocate that, yung prorata natin, because it is still fully participating, would not change. Okay? It would not change or it will not change. So, that is still 2,160,000 times 1 divided by 5. So, we have 432 and 2,160,000 times 4 divided by 5. We have 1,728,000. Again, same pa rin yan siya. Dapat i-total mo, that is 2,160. Na, ang effect na yon is that 1 million par plus 240 for the dividend plus 432 for the full participation, 1,672 total stockholders equity of the preference share. When it comes to ordinary share naman ngayon, we have 4 million na par plus 600,000 plus the participation na 1,728, we have 6,328,000. For the preference share, 1,672,000 divided by 10,000. The book value per share ngayon is 167.2. Very basic, no? 6,328 divided by 40, we have 158.2. So, partial participation. Okay? Or actually, full participation siya, but the privilege rate of the ordinary share is merong specific na rate. Ngayon, next, ito, partial participation. Cumulative, but partial participation. So, ngayon, cumulative pa rin siya as is yung dividend rate natin, as is yung, not as is, but because walang given na rate, we will go back to the 4 million, diba, na par value multiplied by the preference rate, which is 4 million times 12%. So that is 480,000. Okay? Yung excess natin, we will have 3 million minus 240 minus 480, that is 2,280,000. Now, ito ngayon siya. Participating only up to 16%. So, di ba sinabi natin kanina na yung participation lang, kung isipin lang talaga natin yan siya, additional or premium in addition to your dividends. Provided na si ordinary share would benefit from the same privilege. So, pag sinabi na 16% participation lang siya, okay? Ang ibig sabihin lang yan is that the total amount that would be received by the preference share in excess of the par is equivalent to 16%. So that means na if you have already received the 12%, magkano na lang yung kulang? 4%. Klaro? So, 4% na lang. So that means na 4% of the par, or total par, para mas madali, times 0.04, that is only that is only 40,000. Na yung excess niyan, 2,000,000 to, is that 2,280,000? Yes. 2,280,000 minus 40,000, ito, pupunta na yan siya sa ordinary shares. Okay? So, nakuha nyo. Then, same procedure na. So, wait, I will have to check if that is 2,280,000. 3,000,000 minus 240 minus 480. Yes, correct. So, ngayon, the total stockholders' equity of the preference share would be 1,000,000 plus 240 plus 40. So, that is only 1,280,000. Sa ordinary share naman, that is 4,000,000 plus 480 plus 2,240,000. So that is 6,720,000. So the book value ngayon is that 1,280,000 divided by 10,000, 128. Sa ordinary share, 6 million total stockholders' equity of ordinary shares divided by the shares outstanding, we have 168. Diba? Dali lang. No? So, continue tayo. Cumulative but non-participating. Mas pinadali. Bakit? Kasi nga, pag non-participating siya, pero cumulative, wala na to. Walang privilege. See, ordinary share. Kasi nga, non-participating. So, the excess ngayon, 3,000,000 minus 240, that is only 2,760,000. But because non-participating siya, okay? But because non-participating siya, itong 2,760,000, mapupunta yan siya lahat kay ordinary share. Okay? So, wala na yan. So, that means na ang total stockholders equity ngayon ni preferred share, we have 1,240,000. And the total stockholders equity of the ordinary share, we have 6,760,000. Divided by the shares outstanding for the preferring share, 1,240 divided by 10, so we have 124. For the ordinary share, 6,760 divided by 40, we have 169. Mas madali. And lastly, pinakamadali, non-cumulative, non-participating. So kasi nga, non-cumulative siya, meaning current dividend lang yung babayaran. Di ba? So that is only 120,000. Paano natin kinuha yung 120,000? Total par value times 12%. Okay? Total par value times 12%. Okay? So, the excess, net excess, minus 120, that is only 2,880,000. Diba? Itong excess na ngayon na 2,880,000, mapupunta yan siya kay ordinary share. So the total stockholders equity of the preference share, 1 million plus 120. So we have 1,120,000. And for the ordinary share, we have 4 million plus 2,880,000. So that is 6,880,000. So divided by the shares outstanding, that is 112. 6,880 divided by 40, we have 172. Pinaka madali. Diba? So that is for your complete example, no? So let's have another example. Last for the book value per share. Okay? Ito. Ito yung sinasabi natin kanina na kaibahan ng preference as to asset and as to dividends. So first example, what if the preference share daw is preferred as to asset? So again, pag preferred as to asset siya, dividends in our year should be paid. Diba? If it is stated. Pero pag hindi, wag kayong magbuot-buot. No? Dili mo magbuot. If it is only stated. Kasi nga, pag hindi stated, only the current dividends lang. Okay? So, again, standard table natin. Para hindi tayo malito. So, the excess, negative ha? See? We have a negative retained earnings. Yung preference share natin, we have a total par value. And yung ordinary share natin, we have 4 million. So again, sabi nga natin kanina, kasi nga preferred as to asset, basta may asset pa ang corporation, dividends of the preference share is to be paid cumulatively. Okay? Kasi nga, preferred as to asset. Pero pag preferred as to dividends lang, if negative yung retained earnings, like for this example, kahit pa cumulative yan siya, walang dividends. Because for the primary reason na in substance, if there is a negative retained earnings, we cannot declare dividends. See the difference? No? So ngayon, because first example, preferred as to asset siya, the annual dividend of the preferring share is that because it is 12%, diba? So the annual dividend, we have 2 million times 12, times 12%, that is 240,000 per year. Okay, that is 240,000 per year. Have been paid on the preference share since 2018 and we are 2020. So 2018, 2019, 2020. 3 years. So times 3, the total dividends in our years, including the current, we have 240 times 3. 720,000. Ba? So the total loss ngayon, we have 900 plus 720. We have 1,620,000. Which, see, ordinary share yung kagastos niyan. Kuha. So the total stockholders equity of the preferring shares 2,720,000, while for the ordinary share 2,380. Divided by the number of shares. Si preferring share, we have 2 million total par divided by the par value, we have 40,000. Si ordinary share, 4 million divided by 100, we also have 40,000. That is shares outstanding. Okay? So, 2,720,000 divided by 40, 68, and 2,380,000 divided by 40, we have 59.5 book value per share. See? Pag preference as to asset. Ngayon, preference as to dividends. As stated kanina, negative. So, hindi tayo makadeclare ng dividend. Okay? But, yung net loss natin dito, because hindi nga rin participating, would only be borne by the ordinary share. Kuha. So, that is 4 million minus 900. 3 million 100. 2 million. Okay? So, the book value per share ngayon, that 2 million divided by 40, the book value per share of the preferring share, that is 50, then 3 million 100 divided by 40, 77.5. Okay? So that is book value per share, no? Actually, the book value per share is fairly easy. Yun nga lang, we need to familiarize the type of preference, how we allocate, and most importantly, we need to familiarize the computation of the outstanding shares. So later on, as we go on with the topic, I will give you examples or exercises on medyo higher level, no? But no, as of now, as it is, no, stick muna tayo sa basic. So this is the basics of book value per share. So I will end muna this first part, no? In the next video, we will discuss earnings per share naman. So yun, medyo mahaba-haba yun kasi we will have um, basic earnings per share and diluted earnings per share. So this is the first part of our share valuation discussion. Okay?